facing the TLC?
I think you're 100% right. It's been in turmoil. And I think that the challenge has been to kind of take a global view and try to get all the pieces and all the information you can together at one time so you really can figure out how best to address, to figure out what is the role that this industry should play in the new economy, in the new transportation dynamics that we have in urban areas. And once you can try to, it's always changing, but you want to, as best as you can, try to wrap your arms around it, and then figure out what is the best structure system that's going to work for the priorities that you established. And to me, the two priorities are the passengers, which are the clients, and the drivers. Many of which they share. And as long as we can do that, that I think is the way to make it work best. This is a congested city, and it is only getting much more congested, much more congested. There's an interesting statistic that says that there are fewer linear miles of roadway in the city of New York today than there were in 1960. So that we have more vehicles, and a high percentage of those vehicles are for hire vehicles. So they play a larger and larger role. They move more and more people, and we must figure out the best, most comprehensive way to have this industry serve the people who need them and the people who provide the services, which are the drivers. And it must be done in an economically equitable way so that the people are compensated and the people aren't paying too much for the fares. What are all the answers? I don't have all the answers. This gentleman said none of us have all the answers.
I understand that, but soon enough you're going to have to confront some hard questions about
No
this. So
doubt
how do you
about it.
balance pay versus pay from the? How do you balance good pay against the consumer paying too much inside the vehicle?
Our job is we have to find a way to regulate that, which we have the power to do. And we have the right to structure this. We must find the way to structure the division of the fare such that the drivers get the fair, equitable part of that fare that they need to do without putting it on the backs of the riding public. What does that mean? It means in the end that the app, the riding app, and the people that look, the city does this all the time. You want to do business in this city because we have this and this and this and this and this and this. People want to do business here. Well, you know what? You want to do business here as a private company, you got to pay for that. So I think that the ride apps are the ones that are going to have to make the adjustments, and are going to be forced to make the adjustments so that the other two entities have more fair, equitable.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sorrentino. You're there already, but what do you see right now is the biggest challenge at the TLC?
Well, as I said earlier, I think the biggest challenge is a balance, establishing a balance on all levels. Okay, it's not just one issue, as we know, and I think right now dealing with congestion is obviously a priority. Secondly, I think driver pay and having a certain amount of cars on the road is part of that, and making sure that the outer boroughs are well served as well. I think, one of the things, the boroughs, the outer boroughs seem to be the forgotten child. The green cabs would be an attempt to try to help that. A pilot was just recently put out for street hail liveries to try to get some other cars out there. I think all of those type ideas have to be thought about. And I think, the key is trying to get a balance and keeping the amount of cars within a certain range. I know we have a cap in place for hire vehicles. That's being monitored every 6 months, which I think we need to continue doing that. So it's just really a matter. I think all the issues have been identified. It's a matter of just monitoring them and making sure that we're making the right choices and pivoting when we have to.
Thank you. I agree with what they've both said. I'll add on the topic of conversion to electric vehicles, which I think will be an interesting challenge in terms of deploying enough charging stations around the city and distributing them effectively and equitably, as well as being able to identify a workforce that can maintain a new type of vehicle that requires different mechanical skills.
Great. We just heard some very good suggestions. I think one of the issues we need to look at is to find ways to increase vehicle utilization and therefore revenue for medallion taxis. But the comments about electric vehicle and others those are clearly very important as well.
Can you give us ideas, recommendations for how you increase utilization of the yellow taxi?
The recent pilot program where Uber can dispatch through Carbon Arrow to taxis, that's the potential of increasing utilization of medallion taxis. It is obviously too early to tell, but we should not stop thinking of ideas to help the medallion taxis.
Okay.